This is the Louie T Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Louie? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. The Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Denver Broncos. Chiefs at home on Monday night at Arrowhead. Yet again, it's an electric atmosphere. You can understand why ESPN would want to have that scene on Monday Night Football multiple times. And so this was a team in the Chiefs that started off with the league's best record at 5-0, then hit a little bit of a rut, losers of 2 straight coming into this game, needing to get back on track. Epic loss on Thursday Night Football last week to the Oakland Raiders in the division, needing to get back on track in the worst way. 10 days between that game, 11 technically, between that game and Monday night. So Chiefs had ample time to prepare for the Denver Broncos, a team that has been struggling themselves in their own right. And they were losers of 3 straight. This was a Denver Broncos team that started the season off 3-0 and has since hit a really rough patch. They can't seem to get on the same track offensively. They've got a ton of injuries. And Trevor Siemian has been struggling. And this is what we've seen throughout his career, dating back to last year when he got the nod over Paxton Lynch as the Denver Broncos starting quarterback. You've seen really good Trevor Siemian, the kind that makes you say they've got their quarterback of the future right here in Siemian. And then you see why this guy was a 7th-round pick in other instances where he struggles. And whether it's injury, guys that are injured around him, the offensive line in front of him, or just bad play by Trevor Siemian, there are times where he struggles. We saw it last year when they hit a rough patch after starting the season out very well last year and missing the postseason. We're seeing it now during the midst of a 3-game losing streak or a 4-game losing streak? One or the other. I'm trying to remember the last Broncos win. It's been a while. They lost this game. I say this all the time, and I don't know why I do this. I have a device right here, right next to me. Stop being lazy and look up the information. So that's what I'll do quickly is sort through the minutia. And I'll tell you how many games in a row this Broncos team has lost. And we are now currently in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. They've losers of 4 out of their last 5, but currently on a 3-game skid are these Denver Broncos. And so this was an opportunity to maybe sneak one on the road against a team struggling in the Chiefs. They're coming into the game on a 2-game losing streak. You're coming into the game on a 2-game losing streak. Someone's streak was going to be snapped tonight. And if you're the Broncos, why not us? Why not get back on track against a team that is leading currently in the division? If you're the Chiefs, this is the perfect opportunity. At home, Monday night, raucous crowd, electric environment, at home, get back on track against a team that is currently in 2nd place in the division. And this is a great opportunity if you're the Chiefs to run away with this division. Raiders lose, Chargers lose, and now here's an opportunity for you to beat the team that is the next closest to you in the division and put a wide margin between you and everyone else in the division. With a win here, you're now up a full 3 games over the next closest team in the division. And for that matter, no team in the division other than yourself will have a winning mark in the division. So if you're the Chiefs, why not put this thing to rest right now? You win this game and you're looking at a 3-5 Raiders team, 3-4 Denver Broncos team, and a 3-5 Chargers team. So go ahead, put everybody out of their misery. You go to 6-2 and you run away with this thing. And that's what they did tonight. And they did it early. Okay. They jumped on the Broncos early. They did not put the Broncos away as we thought they would. This game could have easily been 28-0 at halftime. But they made mistakes themselves, allowed the Broncos to hang around, actually make this a competitive game. At one point, it's a one-score game, believe it or not, which is asinine. But at one point, this game was 20-13, and you're like, what? How did we get here? But a lot of mistakes by the Chiefs in this game allowed this Broncos team to hang around. But when it was all said and done, the Chiefs put up 9 fourth-quarter points to distance themselves from the Denver Broncos and secure the victory 29-19. So we're going to talk about how they achieved the victory, got to 6-2, separated themselves from the rest of the division, and how the Denver Broncos continue to slide and have now lost 4 out of their last 5 and 3 straight to drop to 3-4 on the season here in a second. But first, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game here. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. There are a number of social media platforms that will keep you informed of what's going on this channel. There's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there is YouTube. All of the links to those special particular social media platforms are down below in the description of this video and future videos that I will be doing. Also in the description is a way to donate. Patreon and PayPal are the 2 ways that you can donate to the Louie T Network. I urge you to donate if you can. For those of you who have donated already, I thank you so much for your contribution to this channel as we're trying to further this channel and take it to new heights. And those 2 links are the ones that will allow you to donate. And those links that you saw before you also down in the description in case you didn't get a good look at them. So if you can, please do donate to the Louie T Network to help me take this channel to the next level. That being said, let's break this Monday Night Football game down, shall we? And we'll start with the Kansas City Chiefs taking care of a little bit of AFC West family business. You know how the family do it. And the Chiefs jumped on the Denver Broncos early in this game, 14-0, on the strength of some turnovers. The first turnover of the game came by the Kansas City Thief, double deuce MP Marcus Peters, reaching in the cookie jar, yum, yum, eat 'em up, yum, yum, eat 'em up, and coming out with some cookies and snatching them away from the ex-Kansas City Chief running back, Jamal Charles. And it was probably one of the last times we saw Charles on the night. He did have a few more carries after that, but it looked like he was going to get the football quite a bit. And then when Peters was able to reach in the cookie jar and pull out a cookie and then scoop and score it, that pretty much spelled the end of the line for Jamal Charles on the night. And that went for 6, as that was a bat-breaking turnover because it opened the floodgates. And after that turnover, you literally had 4 more turnovers happen. It seemed like in the blink of an eye. Trevor Siemian started to throw it all around the yard to the wrong colored jersey. You had Isaiah McKenzie, who's coming off of injury. And the Broncos got a lot of healthy bodies back in this game, including Isaiah McKenzie back as their kickoff punt returner and receiver. They also got Cody Latimer back. He had been out for quite some time with an injury. They got Shane Ray off of the PUP list. Their other half of their devastating pass rushing duo. And really, they've got 3 guys they can throw at you when you throw in Shaq Barrett, who got a sack, strip, forced fumble tonight. And also, they got back, I think they got back Jake Butt, the tight end out of Michigan that they drafted in the 3rd round, I believe. I think he came back off the PUP list as well. But in any event, they got a lot healthier tonight, but still. Wasn't enough. Too many mistakes. And you got to credit the Chiefs for that. And the Chiefs, like I said, jumped on top of this Broncos team early with those turnovers. Marcus Peters with 2 interceptions, not 1, but 2 picks of Siemian, if I'm not mistaken, on the night. In addition to the scoop and score fumble. They just made a big mistake going after Peters for no reason when you've got Kenneth Acker on the opposite side. I mean, even though I think you can go after Peters, you must be very calculated in your approach. He's still a good enough corner that if you make a mistake around him, you will pay for that mistake. You must be very measured in how you go after Marcus Peters, and Trevor Siemian found that out the hard way, and made some crucial mistakes early, led directly to Chiefs points, and it should have been 21-0 because they got the football after the second INT. They moved it all the way down the field, and then they decided to get cute with a halfback pass, or they had Tyreek Hill in the backfield and opted to have him throw it. And he's a receiver, so I don't know if you want to call it a halfback pass or a receiver pass, whatever. He was in the backfield. They tossed it to him, and then he tried to throw it. He threw it right to the safety, Darian Stewart, which you're like, okay, if your guy's not open, don't do that. No, seriously, don't do that. And it's amazing that you listen to John Gruden, and he's like, I was at practice, because he called the play before it happened. He said, well, be on the lookout here for a halfback pass. And sure enough, it was a halfback pass. And he said, I watched them in practice, and they don't have an out. There's no, hey, if this doesn't work, throw it away. Like, that's common sense, though. Should I have to tell you, hey, if your guy's triple covered, don't throw it anyway. Either run or throw it away. And normally the play there is to throw it away. But in any event, if you can tuck it and run, why not? But don't throw it just because. So I didn't think it was necessary for me to tell you, hey, don't throw it anyway. But sometimes I guess you got to tell guys things like that. And he threw it anyway, and he threw it right to Darian Stewart, which was a terrible decision, terrible throw, and even worse result, as it took points, at least a field goal attempt off the scoreboard, which would have extended the lead out to 17-0. But it didn't matter on this night, and as the Denver Broncos were inept for much of the game offensively. Trevor Siemian was horrible, and give credit to this Chiefs defense. They created 4 turnovers. Special teams created another turnover for a total of 5 turnovers on the game, picking Siemian off 3 times, stripping Charles of the football, Isaiah McKenzie muffing a punt, and the Chiefs took advantage of just about every single one of those mistakes, turning them into points. Travis Kelce was outstanding on the night, over 100 yards. It was his touchdown that extended the lead out to 14-0 early in this game, and he was exceptional. Nothing out of the run game tonight, surprisingly enough. This is the first time this season where I can remember the Chiefs struggling to run the football. Against the Steelers, the run game wasn't as prevalent, but it was still somewhat of a factor. It was a non-factor tonight. As a matter of fact, I'd argue that the run game and their insistence on continuing to run it despite it not working was part of the reason they were so anemic in the second half of this game and allowed the Broncos to hang around. But nonetheless, I can appreciate the dedication to staying balanced and not asking Alex Smith to throw it 35 to 40 times. But with that being said, this was the first game of his young NFL career. So out of 8 contests, this is the first time that your star running back hasn't had a total of 100 yards in the game, whether it be just rushing, just receiving, or a combination of the two. So that was a first, because he's been lighting it up all season long, and usually he hurts you either through the air as a receiver, as we saw in the New England game, or we saw in the Pittsburgh game, or the Texans game, or he hurts you on the ground like we saw in the Redskins game, or the Eagles game, or the Chargers game, or so forth and so forth. But this is the first time where he wasn't able to amass at least 100 yards total of offensive production. And so he's going to cool off, obviously, but this was the top-notch Denver Broncos defense. And so they geared up to stop the run, refused to let him get off. And they said, look, if we're going to go down, it's going to go down because Alex Smith beat us, which a lot of teams don't want to do this year because of how good Alex Smith has been. But I'd side on making Alex Smith beat me as well. I will not allow the run game and Kareem Hunt to dominate me. If I'm a team coming in playing the Kansas City Chiefs, I know Alex Smith is on a tear. I know he's lighting up. I know he's playing at an MVP-like level, but he's going to have to continue to prove that because there's a book out on Alex Smith. It's a long book, plenty of chapters. We've seen Alex Smith before. We know what he's capable of, and we still, some of us are hesitant to believe that this guy's playing at this level, which is ridiculous. And so I'd take away Kareem Hunt as well, make you beat me through the air, and not with dump downs to Kareem Hunt, not with Kareem Hunt catching screens and swing passes out of the backfield and breaking me off, but rather you pushing the football down the field to Travis Kelce and Demarcus Robinson, who dropped a deep ball and got lit up for his troubles. Throw it to those guys. And I try to take away as best as possible Tyreek Hill, but that's a hard task in itself. But that's what I would do. And the Broncos did that for the most part tonight. Alex Smith wasn't that impressive tonight. The run game wasn't that impressive. Literally, they dominated this game for much of it because of the mistakes made by the Denver Broncos and the lead that they were able to jump out to. It allowed them to kind of play it close to the vest and conservative, similar to what we saw against the Chargers earlier in the season in Los Angeles, where they jumped out to an early 14-0 lead, ended up winning the game 24-10, because they realized we don't need a ton of points to win. That game was 17-10 late until Kareem Hunt bust off like a 75-yard touchdown run to ice it. They knew they didn't need much on that evening because 17 would be enough. Sort of like tonight. They said, look, we don't need 35 or 38 like we've been scoring for much of the season. They scored almost 30 points in every single game except the Steelers game. They said, we don't need that tonight. This team isn't capable of scoring 27 points. Let's just put it on cruise control and let's not F this up. And they had some turnovers of their own. Alex Smith was hit. He fumbled the football. I talked about the Tyreek Hill interception thrown into the end zone. They made some mistakes too that allowed this Broncos team to hang around. And so for all of the miscues by the Broncos that allowed the Chiefs to get out in front, this game should have been over, but the Chiefs allowed the Broncos to hang around. Was not their sharpest offensive output and showing, but it was more than enough to get the job done with the mistakes that the Broncos made and some of the errors this Chiefs defense forced. Speaking of Chiefs defense, they were good tonight. And I've been talking about this Chiefs defense and just how bad they've been throughout this season and how they've struggled at times and how this offense and special teams may have to be the catalyst for this team moving forward because this defense isn't as good as it once was. They were much better tonight. The pressure was a little bit better. It wasn't great, but it was better. Their ability to stop the run was solid, and that allowed them to put Denver into some third and long situations, and they were able to protect their corners. Their secondary isn't the greatest. We know this. That's probably the weakest portion of their team. Once you go away from Peters, that guy opposite of him, whether it's Mitchell or Acker like it was tonight, that's the guy that everybody's going to try. And teams have had success going to that corner opposite of Peters. And that was the Broncos' game plan going in. Let's attack Acker with Demaryius Thomas. Seems like Simeon didn't get that memo early, but after the interceptions, he got it very quickly. Started going over to that side of the field, and they had a little bit of success. But for the most part, this Chiefs defense, I thought, was really good. Got a fourth down stop late in the ball game. That was crucial. They forced turnovers, like I said. Marcus Peters with the strip, the rip, strip, fumble, scoop and score. Marcus Peters with a couple of interceptions. There was another INT in there by this Chiefs defense. I thought they had an outstanding night for their standards because this is a defense that we've seen them get gashed this season. You know, they haven't been at their best. They've given up points. They've given up tons of yards. They talked about Bob Sutton talking about how bad this team has struggled on third and long situations this season. And so they were a lot better tonight. And give them some credit for performing at a high level and getting the job done tonight. And they needed a performance like this from the defense because the offense wasn't its sharpest tonight. So that being said, they get the job done, 29-19, snap their two-game losing streak, get to 6 wins, and really distance themselves from everybody else in the division, which to me, if you were the Chiefs coming into this game, that should have been priority number one. Win the game, separate ourselves from the rest of the AFC West, and by winning this game, you effectively accomplished that goal. You look at the Broncos, and it's pretty safe to say that they have an issue at the quarterback position. And I wanted to believe in Trevor Siemian. I've been touting this guy for the last 2 seasons as a guy that could be a quarterback in this league that could get the job done. You put a good defense around him, which they have. You put a solid run game around him, which they have, and good weapons, all right, which they have. He should be able to flourish, and he hasn't done that. He hasn't taken that next step, and he teases you with these performances like early in the season versus Los Angeles in week 1, against Dallas in week 2. He teases you with these performances, and then you get the duds that we've seen him have, like at Buffalo, in this game, against the Chargers last week, where he's not good. Now, granted, the last few weeks, ever since that Giants game, no E-Man San, that hurts a lot. A banged up Demaryius Thomas, that doesn't make it any better. But he still has to make better decisions with the football. Some of those interceptions tonight, that wasn't from great coverage or you were out schemed. They had the perfect play called against the play that you were running. That was just bad execution, bad decision making. That interception, that first interception to Marcus, what are you doing? You can't throw that football to a tight end. And Peters is staring you down in zone coverage, keying quarterback's eyes, and you throw it right to him. That's inexcusable. And so Siemian hasn't been good. They don't have many options behind him. And so this Broncos team is going to continue to struggle if they can't run the football. And tonight, they didn't run it as well. And they really haven't had great success on the ground since like week 4 against the Raiders. They've struggled rushing the football. That puts a lot more pressure on Siemian to perform. The weapons around him haven't been great. Benny Fowler dropped a touchdown pass tonight. You've had struggles out there. Virgil Green dropped a pass that would have resulted in a first down. They're not helping his cause either, but he's not playing exceptional football and helping himself. And so it's really frustrating because, again, I've said this about at least 4 or 5 teams this year. This is a playoff caliber defense. I've said the same thing about Baltimore. I've said the same thing about Detroit. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I've said that about numerous teams, that it's a shame you're probably not going to make the postseason because your defense is good enough, but your offense, unfortunately, is not. And they're going to be your undoing. And this is another one of those teams that's probably going to fall into that category of have a really good offense, but your defense isn't good enough. Or, excuse me, you have a really good defense, but your offense isn't good enough. And because of it, the whole team is going to suffer. And this is another one of those teams. And it's sort of like last year where the defense was really good and the offense is subpar to mediocre, and they're going to struggle. And you saw it again tonight. And the one thing they can ill afford to do because of the struggles of the offense in general, when they're not turning it over, just converting on third downs, you can't turn it over. You're not good enough. There's not enough room for error. Your margin for error isn't great enough for you to have 5 turnovers. Well, really for no team in the NFL is 5 turnovers okay on the road, let alone period. But you can't afford to turn it over. You're not good enough offensively to overcome turnovers. Your defense is good enough to overcome a few mistakes and lapses, but this offense is not. And you put this defense in such a tough bind with the mistakes made early that are directly attributed to 14 points. It put you in a hole, and the defense tried to bail you out. They forced some turnovers. They kept you in this game when this thing could have gotten ugly. But the offense right now, there are not enough answers to all the questions. Do you have the right man at quarterback right now? Are there enough weapons healthy? Is this offensive line good enough? Menelik Watson stinks at right tackle, and I told you that was going to be a problem eventually, and now it is. There are a lot of questions. Who's your best running back? Can you run block better? Do you need to run it more than you pass it? these are all questions that you have, and right now there aren't enough answers in Denver, and so this offense is struggling right now. When do you pull the plug on Trevor Siemian? That's another question for another day, but he was not good tonight at all as they lose this game 29-19. Defensively, like I said, you get Shane Ray back. I thought the pass rush was solid tonight. Alex Smith did not have his best game. The run defense was smothering. It was stifling. Kareem Hunt had nowhere to go. And for that matter, the Chiefs as a team didn't run it well at all in this football game. And you forced turnovers. You kept this team in the game when it looked like this was going to be a blowout. I mean, literally in the first quarter, this was heading to 28-0. Because if they score when Tyreek Hill decides he wants to throw the halfback pass when there are three defenders surrounding the one receiver on the route, if he just says, I'm going to run it or I'm going to throw it away, and they score on the next play, it's 21-0. They had another opportunity later on in the game, in the first half, to score a touchdown. They had to settle for a field goal. It easily could have been 24 or 28-0. Instead, defense holds up. They give the Broncos opportunities to hang around. And in a game that looked like it had 24-28-0 or 24-28-3 written all over it, it ended up being just 17-3 at halftime. And that gave them a chance in the third quarter to scratch and claw their way back. And like I said, at one point, you got it down to 20-13. That was all a credit to this defense. But it wasn't enough. And the offense simply couldn't muster enough playmaking to close the gap any closer than 7. And so the Chiefs were able to run away with this thing 29-19 final score. Broncos now extend their losing streak out to 3 games with this loss. Chiefs snap their 2-game skid, get back in the win column, and are now 6-2 and have a commanding lead over the remaining teams in the AFC West. Let's get to some comments. All right. Let's see. Let's get to, we will start with Ree. He says, damn, Trevor Siemian is ass cheeks. Yeah. Seems that way. And I, like I said, I like Trevor Siemian, and I've always wanted to give him an opportunity to be the guy in Denver, but he's not good enough. And I don't know if it's time to move on or not, but it's hard because who are you going to go to? Obviously, you don't love Paxton Lynch, or he would have been starting already. And Brock Osweiler is, well, Brock Osweiler. So, I mean, where do you go from here? So, I don't know. BE says, 11-2, let's go. I'm making a bold, and I mean bold prediction. I'm holding the crown for the remainder of the season. All right. I can tell you this much. You're not going to do that, because at some point I'm coming for what's mine. And I went 12-1, so I gained a game on you. And I think somebody went 13-0 this week. I haven't looked, but I was told someone had a chance to go perfect if the Chiefs won. Makes sense to me. I mean, this was pretty much an easy chalk week. If you managed to pick the Ravens, you had a chance to go perfect, because everybody that we expected to win won on Sunday and Monday. So this was a really easy week. Eagle Speed says, can't wait for the Eagles to feast on Siemian at the link. Yeah, I can't see. The only thing that could possibly help is they could get Eman Sam back for that game, but I don't see them coming to the link and beating the Eagles. Not with the way the Eagles are playing football, and not with the way the Broncos are currently playing football. John Perez says, sup, Lou? Sorry I missed the Redskins report earlier. Just want to say I've never seen a Redskins fan stand up for Kirk Cousins like you did. So mad respect to you, man. There are plenty of Redskins fans. My man Shucks. I can see his logo. I can't think of his name right now, but he stands up for Kirk Cousins. I mean, he makes Kirk Cousins videos all the time. Bottom line is, Kirk Cousins is a top half of the league NFL starting quarterback. And that's what you need to win a Super Bowl. And we have one, and he's a franchise quarterback. And there are a number of teams that would love to have him, and if you're foolish if you think that it's okay to let him go without a contingency plan already in place. Redskins don't have that, so you can't allow him to walk away. They've botched this situation badly already. Don't make it worse. Don't make a bad situation worse by saying, well, we messed it up, and now he costs too much money, so we just need to let him go. That's not the way to fix this problem. Reese says something is different about the Chiefs, Lou. They just seem more confident than they have ever been. Well, the confidence stands from Alex Smith playing at an MVP-like level. I mean, that changes everything when you look at your quarterback and he's able to do he hasn't thrown an interception yet this season. Understand that. Like, he still hasn't thrown an interception. They don't turn the football over. Tonight was their first turnover other than the first play of the season offensively versus New England when Kareem Hunt fumbled on his first career NFL carry. They haven't turned it over since then. They turned it over twice tonight, and they still have only turned it over 3 times total this season. The Broncos had 5 turnovers tonight. The Chiefs have 3 for the entire season. Just think about that for a second. I mean, this team's playing with a ton of confidence. Offensively and on special teams, I still think their defense isn't as good as you would like it to be, but they looked good tonight. Maybe it's the start of their defense trying to get back on track. We'll see. Cloud says, this draft has a pretty good running back class. Don't sleep on Chubb and Sony Michel. I'm not a Nick Chubb guy. I think Nick Chubb is an average NFL back. He's coming off of major knee surgery, and he lacks that extra gear that as a Redskins fan, we have enough guys that lack the extra gear. I don't want to see another one of those guys end up in a Redskins uniform. Sony Michel looks the part of a difference maker, but he looks the part of a third down change of pace back difference maker. I'm looking for an every down back guy. And the only one of those that I see is Penn State running back Saquon Barkley, like a true difference maker, like top 5 pick difference maker. There are other backs in this draft that are probably going to end up being pretty good, And when I sit down and study them, I'm going to be like, man, this guy's good, this guy's good, this guy's good. But those 2 Georgia backs, they're okay. They present different challenges. I think they're a great complement to one another, but I'm not sure that those 2 are difference-making backs at the next level as every down backs. Excuse me. Chubb may be, but again, I'm looking for something totally different. For some team out there, Chubb may be a great back for them. For the Redskins, I'm not looking for a guy like that. We've got enough of those on the roster already. Reese says, this Broncos organization and Kirk Cousins may be doing some flirting this offseason. There's a lot of teams that could say that. And I've said that on the video that I did earlier. There are a lot of teams that could be looking at snagging Kirk in the offseason. And so the Broncos are definitely one of them. I talked about that on the last stream that I just did. Cloud says, fitting how Jamal Charles' first game back at Arrowhead, he fumbles the ball. And it was crazy because he had a nice run right before it. And they were talking about how he may get a steady diet of carries and may tear them up in this game. And then that fumble was a backbreaker early. And I know he was upset because he really wanted to show out and say, hey, this is what you guys are missing when you let me go. And that sucks because you always want to perform well against your former team to show them what the game is missing. And that fumble, that kind of put a damper on all of that. Reese says, Travis Kelce's a grown-ass man. He just seems to get better and better. He is. If he can control his temper, which he's done a better job of this season, he's a hell of a football player. He blocks, which is something that you don't get out of most pass-catching tight ends in this league anymore. He's an all-around tight end. Like Gronk, he can pass block, he can run block, he can catch it, He can split out wide, run routes. He can put him in the slot, run routes. And then he can line up tight in the traditional tight end formation and run routes from there. You know, he can run it. Guy's exceptional. They run shovel passes to him and all kinds of nonsense. He's an outstanding athlete. Let's see. John Perez says, with Trevor Siemian struggling, should they consider giving Paxton Lynch a shot? I was high on him being the quarterback of the future for them, and I want to see him do well. At some point this season, you got to ask yourself, what do you have to lose? You know, if Lynch isn't the guy, then find out for sure so you can move on. So if the Broncos get destroyed in Philly next week, why not? You're 3-6, your season's going, or you're 3-5, your season's going nowhere fast. Why not give Paxton Lynch an opportunity? Cloud says, Simeon forgot what team he played for, 3 INTs. I had said that earlier. He forgot what colored jersey his teammates were wearing. He's throwing the football all over the place. Reese says, save us, Chucky. Hashtag Bucks 2018, hashtag reunion. I don't think that's going to happen, but hey, I'll never stop another man from dreaming. John Perez says, when do you see Tamba Hali coming back? He hasn't played yet this year, and they need him for the stretch run. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't even know what his injury is, but they could desperately use him, especially up front against the run. I think his best days as a pass rusher are over, but they can definitely use him to keep their current pass rushers fresh and to help stop the run. He's still exceptional at stopping the run. So Vincent Coe says, can you talk about the Seahawks trading for Dwayne Brown and gave up Jeremy Lane, 5th-round pick in 2018 and a 2nd-round pick in 2019? They announced the trade right after the Seahawks-Texans video. Yeah, we could quickly talk about that. This was a trade that we heard rumors about, rumblings and grumblings about. They had even thrown Jimmy Graham's name in there, and that's when you heard the Seahawks come out and adamantly and vehemently deny Jimmy Graham being in any trade rumors, which I then told you that there's a trade imminent. I didn't know if it included him, but they were talking. Those reporters generally, with situations when we're talking trades and interest from teams, they don't usually make that stuff up. You know, they generally have some kind of source, whether it's a accurate source or not. They have some type of inside source that's giving them this information. And so you knew they were thinking about doing something. And they realize that in order to win, they've got to protect Russell Wilson better than they have. And you can't get away with Reese Adiambo or any of the guys that you've been trying at left tackle. George Font, who went down for the season, that was your starting left tackle to start the season off. You got to stop playing Russian roulette with the left tackle position. It's the most important position on the offensive line, and you got to solidify that. Dwayne Brown's a veteran that gets it done in this league. He was looking for a better contract. He may get that in Seattle. I don't know. He was frustrated with his contract. Obviously, the Texans made him some kind of promise to get him to come back. Either that or he was tired of missing game checks. One or the other. He came back, and he's a really good left tackle in this league. He's going to come in. He's going to help fortify that Seahawks offensive line that I think is getting better. They've got a young line that I think is starting to get better, and bringing in a veteran like Dwayne Brown is really going to strengthen their line. Now that you've got a lot of young, talented players on that offensive line, you've got the young kid you drafted out of Texas A&M a couple of years ago in the 1st round, Ethan Posick. You also have Justin Britt. I mean, now you add Dwayne Brown to the mix, and all of a sudden this is a formidable offensive line if they can gel and mesh together and guys can stay relatively healthy. This is a quality offensive line you got here. And so they understood what needed to be done. They need to be able to run the football better. They couldn't run it last week. They haven't really been able to run it this season. Dwayne Brown's going to help you in that aspect as well. So this is a big trade for them. Did they give up a ton for this? Absolutely, they gave up a ton for Dwayne Brown. But the window is closing. The window of opportunity to win a Super Bowl in Seattle, it's closing very rapidly. You see the Rams, they're coming. Okay? The reign over the NFC West, it's coming to a close here shortly. They understand that Legion of Boom defense, they're getting older. And the window of opportunity to win a chip with the nucleus of this team as constructed with Bennett and Chancellor and Thomas and Sherman, it's closing. It's rapidly closing. And so you got to do something drastic to make it work. And this was a move here that they said, look, we've got enough to win enough to make another run at the Super Bowl, but we got to fortify the offensive line. We got to be able to run it. We got to be able to protect Russell. This guy's going to help you do all of those things and then some. And so I think it was a really good move on their part to go out and get Dwayne Brown. Reese says, Marcus Peters, I love watching him play, Lou, the Kansas City Thief. And he was a big-time thief tonight. And that guy, when he's on and his head is screwed on straight, he's one of the best in the game. And he proved it again tonight with his playmaking ability. And one more thing to add on the Seahawks making that trade. You're not going to get a top-level left tackle with the way that they play and where their draft pick is every year. You're going to be picking from the bottom of the barrel. You tried to select a left tackle out of Texas A&M. He ended up being a guard for you. That's the nature of the biz when you're a good football team and you're selecting in the mid to late 20s every year. You're not going to be able to get a top left tackle. Those come off the board relatively quick. So this alleviates the need to have to find a way to draft a left tackle in the first round. Now you can concentrate on some other areas. So it's a really good trade for them. Vincent Coe says, what do you think about the wide receiver from Notre Dame, Equanimous St. Brown? He's in this upcoming draft, right? Only asking because his name is also lit. I think Equanimous has one more year. He may be a redshirt sophomore. I believe he's a sophomore. But I think he may be a redshirt sophomore, so he may be eligible. I don't see him coming out. I think he's got one more year in school. I think he needs to get bigger and stronger. And maybe if he is eligible, maybe he decides to go and come out. But I think he'd be better served coming back, getting stronger, a little bit more physical, because he's a big linear guy. And he's got a wiry frame. And I think if he could bulk up just a little bit more, one more offseason in college football to show his ability to outmuscle some corners and really use his size to his advantage, could do him some good a year from now. But we'll see. But I think he's a talented guy. I think he's got some ability. He can run. He's got a hell of a catch radius. He can go up and get the football, can high point it. There's a lot to like about Equanimous, but I think he's got a little bit more growing to do. So I'd like to see him come back for one more year. And that's just not me as a Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan wanting a guy to come back to help the team. That's just me from a standpoint of I think he can get even better and really bolster his draft status and draft stock if he goes back for one more year and is able to stay healthy and plays well. He's got a quarterback that can get him the football now, something that they struggled with 2 years ago. He's got a guy that's playing some outstanding football, and if he stays around, I think he could do some big things and really bolster his draft stock. John Perez says, amazing Derek Johnson is still getting it done in his 30s. This man is immortal or what? He's like the Julius Peppers of the AFC. Yeah, I mean, he had a hell of a play on a fourth down tonight. I remember watching him early in the season, and I don't know if it was the preseason or what. I think it was the preseason. And the Panthers tried to throw a team tried to throw a wheel route on him. I want to say it was the Panthers. I think it was a preseason game, but in any event, a team tried to throw a wheel route up the sideline into the end zone. And he was all over it in man-to-man coverage. I'm like, bro, are you really in your mid-30s coming off of your second Achilles tear? Are you really doing this? He's still running like he's in his mid-20s, in his prime of his career. I'm like, this dude is insane. And tonight, all over that little hook route over the middle of the field on a 4th and 5, he wasn't having any of it, man. This guy, Derek Johnson, man, I tell you, dude is ridiculous. Straight up. SW Mike says, this game was starting to look like the Cowboys-Redskins game when it was down 26-13. Like I told my man Cloud, don't reverse the scores like that. The bigger number always comes first. Remember that. But see, the difference was I had a fleeting thought in my mind, because I'm a delusional Redskins fan, that we could come back and win the game 27-26. Sort of like that Monday Night Miracle with Santana Moss and the 2 touchdowns when it looked bleak and we should have lost the game. And out of nowhere, here comes 2 rainbows from Mark Brunell to Santana Moss, and we win 14-13. I kind of had that in my head. We can win this game 27-26. And then our bum kicker, Nick, whatever his name is, misses the extra point. I said, well, there goes that plan. So I never thought, but I said that to say this. I never thought Denver could come back and win this game. Never. Not once did that cross my mind. Ricky L says, so in fantasy this week, I played a guy who started Jordy Nelson and he lost. He also had DeAndre and the Lions kicker and KC's D. Hashtag ouch. He started Jordy Nelson. The Packers didn't even play this week. That just goes to show you how much he was paying attention to his lineup. Buffalo pregame says, what do you think the Broncos need to do about their quarterback situation? I think you roll with Simeon for another week or two, and if he continues to play poorly, I think you pull the plug on him, and then it's time to see what Paxton Lynch is all about. I mean, if you don't believe in the kid, then you need to move on. But at this point, if Simeon's not the guy, Lynch is not the guy, then you're in the market for a quarterback again if you're the Broncos. John Perez says, off subject, question about the Seahawks. Does Jimmy Graham stay in Seattle long term or does he go elsewhere because he's in the last year of his contract in addition to the cap hit? I think Seattle's pretty disappointed in what they've gotten out of Jimmy Graham. I think they thought they were getting more than what they bargained for. And I don't see him being in Seattle past this season. I think that's why you heard the trade rumors. I don't think he's going to be in Seattle much longer past this year. I don't think they're going to trade him this year. Trade deadline's tomorrow, 4:30 or 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If he's not traded by then, and I don't think he will be, wouldn't surprise me if he was, though. But if he's not traded by then, he'll be there for the rest of the season, but I can't see him being there past this season. I think they'll move on from him after this. Reese says the Seahawks also got Mr. Big Stuff, Marcel Darius. They're all in trying to get a chip before it's too late. Actually, Marcel Darius went to Jacksonville, not Seattle. But it's all good. Can't catch everything. That's why I'm here, to make sure you stay informed. Ricky L says, yeah, that's half of my league. Cooks and Landry didn't do for me, and CMC didn't do much for me either. Man, you know how it goes. Speaking of miraculous victories, don't you forget the collapse at the Capitol, Lou. Screw you, Jordan Reed. You got to let Jordan Reed live, man. That happened 2 years ago, bro. You got to move on, man. Forgive. You don't have to forget. I'm not asking you to forget. But just forgive and move on, man. Forgive and move on, Reed. It's okay. But in any event, that's going to do it for the stream tonight. Chiefs get it done, 29-19. Moved to 6-2 on the season. Tied for the best mark in the AFC along with the Steelers and Patriots. This Chiefs team going to be dangerous this year, and they're going to win the AFC West, barring some kind of catastrophic meltdown. They're going to win that AFC West division, and they're going to be a tough team to deal with come playoff time if they continue to take care of the football, score the ball the way that they have this season, and if the defense shows any signs of getting back to what they once were. And tonight was a little bit of that with the turnovers that they were able to create. This could be a very scary team, dare I say Super Bowl contending team in the AFC. I still think that Pittsburgh is their kryptonite. And I think the Steelers may be the best team in the AFC right now, but we will see. A lot of football left to be played, but nonetheless, Chiefs get it done, extend their lead in the AFC West to 3 games. And at this point, sort of like the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East, they're their own worst enemies. They're the only ones that can really stop themselves from winning their division in the AFC West. At least the Cowboys still have 2 games left. with the Eagles if they want to try to make a run at the division. With this Chiefs team, they've played everyone and beat everyone except the Raiders once. And they've got the Raiders at Arrowhead once more, and the Raiders are in no position to try to make a run at the division. So it's pretty safe to say, unless something catastrophic happens to this Chiefs football team, they are going to win the AFC West after extinguishing the Denver Broncos 29-19 tonight. Broncos are now losers of 3 straight, dropped under 500 for the first time this season at 3-4, and they've got a lot of questions to answer in the Mile High City after this loss and the performance of Trevor Siemian and the rest of this Broncos offense. That's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Monday Night Football Overtime. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Redskins Report live at 9. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.